There we go. Hello, Ray. How's it going?
Hello, sir.
I
It
can't
is
believe
great
that
to
it's
see
been
you.
2 weeks since we've been doing this.
Yeah. And let's see here. These are my channels. Yeah. For some reason, it's not streaming to my channels, but we will move on. We will make do.
Wonderful. So today we got a very exciting topic. Can you make $1 million with SaaS, with software? Now you probably have more experience with that than me, so how about you just start talking now?
Yeah. I mean, sure, you can make a lot of money, but I think that I think the with SaaS is really the most important part of that question. Like SaaS is a business model that became popularized like 25 years ago in with the Salesforce, right? Coming in and competing against like Siebel systems. So Siebel was selling with these CRMs where go to the big companies. They say, "Hey, you want to go buy the software?" And they go talk to the head of IT, and the head of IT would approve it. Then it would go into a budget for the capital, and they have to get approved by the board. And that was the way they made their sales. And then everything froze up right after like the dot-com crash, and Siebel continued trying to make these sales, but then there was other company that was competing with Siebel and not having as much success, but then all of a sudden they're making lots of sales and Siebel isn't. This company Salesforce, and Salesforce, instead of going to the head of IT and saying, "Hey, you want to buy this thing, put on your capital budget, whatever," they would go to the VP of sales. And the VP of sales would not have the ability to buy software. They can never buy software. So Salesforce made this big push, like, no software. They had like software, like a ban sign through it. That was part of their marketing. And they said that you never need to buy software again. Instead, you're going to rent it, right? And we're going to host it for you. You're going to have this service that we give you. And you've got all this budget for buying services, even though you can't buy software because that's capital expense. And a new business model was born. Salesforce grew like weeds as a result of being able to sell this way, and selling to the line of business executives became a very successful means of making sales once you could remove the capital intensive part and just say, okay, well, you can just rent it, right? Which makes an expense instead of being a depreciable asset. And and by hosting it, they made it so they wouldn't have to set anything up. They didn't have to go bring IT into the mix, because IT was also all about the capital stuff. And this worked for making lots of sales. Other companies exploited that model. But when I say this thing came to pass in like 2020, 2001 rather, it's an old model. And the other thing that made that model work was interest rates, because interest rates were so low that like there wasn't a big cost of borrowing between the small company and the big company. And this would also help in terms of being able to project the value of future revenues. And like there's some good financial reasons for that. But the other thing that sort of was key to all of this is the idea that software is expensive to make, right? So you'd raise money, you'd build your software, you'd rent it out to your customers, and then in the fullness of time, those subscriptions would have paid for that upfront investment and produces big fat margins after that. And that's a great theory of the case. But software becomes cheaper to build, right? And you and I have both met through like sort of the low code revolution that's been going on over the course of the last few years. And the key idea there, I think, is partially about tooling, partially about demographics, right? Anybody can make software now. And lots of people think, oh, now that I can make software, make millions and millions of dollars the same way those people did, except I can do it so cheaply. I can do it like, over the weekend, right? Without any sort of real formal training or whatever.
So many people trying to build their software over the weekend, and now 20 weekends later, they're still working on it.
Well, the other thing is they don't really know what's next. Like, sure, I built my software. Now what? Right? And like the key is now you got to go sell. But then you sell and you find out everybody else has been building it in a weekend too. How do you compete? Like, where's my millions of dollars, right? How do you make millions of dollars of that? And that's where my thinking is that both that and so I think one, the tooling that's like what we call low code, no code, visual, whatever, the AI assisted work also allows a completely different modality that expands the universe of people who can speak English but not necessarily speaking code, and allows them to go much faster and produce very remarkable stuff really, really fast. But because the cost of producing software goes down, now the remarkable part needs to go up. And so my thinking is that services you can sell, right? And you can do software-enabled services. And because it's cost so little to make the software now, you can afford to do things that will get good, good traction with your customers and give you an advantage as a service provider. But it doesn't look like the way SaaS used to, and the kind of SaaS never looked the way they used to, and that's my theory of the case. So I think you can make a lot of money, leveraging software with your expertise, but it doesn't look like SaaS did in 2010 or 2001.
You can't make a SaaS download YouTube videos or something like this. Or convert your PDF, edit PDF, only $19.99 a month.
Yeah, but I think that people like you who make YouTube videos, there's so much more benefit to what you're doing because of the fact that the cost went
In
down.
our community, NoCodeProCode.com, that what he's doing is he teams up with content creators like YouTubers and all that, and he helps them build software that is applicable for for their audience, and they team in. I think they do 50-50. He builds the software and then they sell it, and then they help YouTubers monetize by selling more or less crappy software to their audience, like Mr. Beast does now. Mr. Beast is not one of his clients, or I don't know, maybe he is, but I don't think so.
Well, the thing is, there's so much more advantage for having distribution, because now if anybody can make software, and if you can make software relatively quickly, and that's about having secrets, right? Bare knowledge about what's going on in the world, and particularly in that part of the market, and reputation. The reputation kind of is all. That's why the YouTube is so great.
Yesterday, I signed up for something called Data Fast from Mark Liu. He's like a YouTuber. He shows how you can build a SaaS using AI and Next.js and all of that. He's more of someone who tells you how to make money on YouTube rather than actually a programmer. But I like that he puts programming into this kind of niche, right? It's very interesting. If you enjoy watching YouTube, his videos are not like mine. It's actually entertaining. So I was watching his videos, and he built his startup, or his little SaaS that he indie hacked himself, DataFast, which had some security issues, may not be fully GDPR compliant if you add it on your website, yada, yada, yada. But I signed up for it and I tested it, and I was like, it's not really special. I can have everything I have essentially in Google Analytics or Post Hoc, but I wanted to buy it from him just because he made it, and I just enjoy watching his videos. So I just purchased it. I'm paying $20 a month or so.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, is this like a better way of selling merch now, making your own software, right?
Yeah, well, I think it really is. There are kind of three states of matter when it comes to for intellectual property. I think you can sell that same expertise as content, consulting, and code.
Yeah.
And and people will be and people can get value from any of those states, and you can be choosing what's free and what's paid, and what's going to be your upfront thing versus what's your customer thing, or your long-term retainer business or whatever. But but I think but all of them require that knowledge to begin with, right? Which is, what do you know that's secret, and what's the reputation you have, and you can be exploiting it using any of those three form factors. SaaS just kind of gets people stuck on one of those form factors. But those other two, there's a lot of money to be made. And there are people who worry about selling their time for money. But I think that's a lot to do with just not charging enough.
I always think if you charge $500 an hour, there is nothing bad about selling your time for money.
Yeah, and and what you'll find is the more you sell at a higher price point your time, the more demand there is for the other manifestations of your expertise.
Yeah, I learned that from you. I was like, there was a time when I thought $100 an hour was enough, and then I looked at your pricing. I saw it's like 1,000, and I was like, oh my god, I'm undercharging. I gotta do 500 now. Gotta meet in the middle.
Yeah, and yeah, and I'm very happy for your success. I think that your story is part of the answer to that question of can you make $1 million with SaaS? The answer is yes, you can absolutely make $1 million, and yes, SaaS can be part of that mix.
Yeah.
But there really is no such thing as magic. And like when you're thinking like, well, what do you need to
And
do
then
to make that happen?
we have very high taxes in California. I have not made $1 million yet, but
Well, give it time and not that much time. But yeah. So anyway, that's my take on it, and I'd love to hear yours because you have recently been getting into a SaaS, and I think this is a good time for us to put up, maybe a screenshot or a QR code for Despia.
They put up the screenshots so people know what we're talking about. Is you can
Yeah.
turn your web into a mobile app. If you enjoy making web apps and you don't want to use Flutterflow, this is the solution. It's a very niche market. I only built the product for people as crazy as I am. Uh, and then let me put up the QR code for it. There you go. And you can learn more about that here. Oh, no, I lost the QR code. Now I got it again.
There we go.
But the idea is essentially you can make a web application, WeWeb, Nordcraft, whatever you want to do, and you can turn it into a mobile application with all the native functionality. Even, and I'm very proud on this, it costs lots of money with R&D and development. We do have widgets. This is how we spend our money building those kinds of crazy features.
That's great.
This was way too like it doesn't look that complicated. This was very complex building.
Well, and it certainly is still a lot of work. And when I look at that, the important part of making a SaaS is the remarkableness of the software, right? The software has, it has to be an actual hard problem to solve, problem that's worth solving.
Flutterflow doesn't have smart widgets. Flutterflow doesn't have it.
Yeah, but the other thing is you have credibility.
Yeah.
You've been spending your time making
YouTubes. They don't
really
trust me that much if I tell them they should buy Despia. They trust me more if I tell them sign up for Nordcraft. But I think that is just maybe like they think it's a conflict of interest, which it is.
But your reputation is as important as the technical knowledge for making that stuff work. So the idea, like I'm going to make an Airbnb clone and people are going to flock to my door, doesn't quite fly. You need to make something that is differentiated, remarkable, and second, but you.
NoCode. Why is it that everybody who uses NoCode wants to build an Airbnb clone? I love that you just bring this up. I was like, do you really want to have the liability for $5,000 transactions that cause people to travel across the whole world? Like, this sounds like a business model I couldn't sleep at night.
It is tricky, but Airbnb certainly made it work, and I've seen a number and
investments, aren't they like YC and all those kinds of things?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
they're one of those YC companies.
The chance of you building this in bubble is very low unless you're doing it like, I don't know, unless you're doing it for dogs or something. It's very niched.
Well, I think that gets to an important point, which is the riches really are in the niches. Where do you have reputation? And like just like you have reputation among people who've been building with these various low-code tools, and you can now go speak to them and you have something to sell to them that will actually improve their lives because now they can actually ship something to create a better mobile experience than they ever could before. So you're able to solve a problem that they had. You're the credible person to be able to provide them with that solution. That is a viable business that you can make $1 million on.
Yeah, isn't it like Capacitor's advertisement, like, or on the unofficial one, ship your shitty web app to the App Store?
That sounds like the premise of Andrew Gazdecki's old company.
Despia is the same idea, executed better. It's all about execution, how you do things.
Yeah, execution and distribution. I think that those are really the keys. And when you can do those, there's a lot of money to be made.
Yeah, doing
just because it's SaaS doesn't mean you're gonna make money.
Yeah, we're doing very exciting things. For example, in Despia with JavaScript, you can kick off a promise that will then call, so you can run JavaScript with a text input of a prompt. It will then take this, go to the language foundation model that Apple now exposed on your iPhone, generate it on the actual device hardware using Apple Intelligence, and then it will inject this as the response as a JavaScript variable back into the web view, which then has your WeWeb app, your Nordcraft app in there, and then you can all of a sudden have something that possibly compares to ChatGPT with zero costs to it. We're still working on it. We don't have it shipped yet, but that's the next thing we're working on. So
Very
you
cool,
can
man.
AI for free in your application.
Now we talk about shipping, and you've had an interesting June on the shipping front, right? I mean, we've we've had a few. Hey, we're meeting today. No, I'm not, because because Apple kind of blew things up for you a little bit, if I recall, with their WWDC happening this month.
Did lots of things that I don't agree with, like with the liquid glass where they put the YouTube play button over the glass, and it was like something else. So like Apple's design decisions are very questionable. But we are now at a point where actually, if you open the Despia app on iOS 26, it actually works. So we got that sorted out before. I mean, most people are not going to install on the beta version, but there are always a few weird people who install the beta before they should actually install it. And for them, we made sure that if you're on the beta right now, which is pretty unstable, and you want to use someone's app that was built in Despia, will actually work on the beta.
Mm-hmm.
Have shipped that update, so it will actually work beautifully on the beta. And while doing that, because we added like share into the app, because one from your community, I think Michael, who's using WeWeb, or who's now migrating off WeWeb actually, he asked us if we have the ability to share links into Despia. So you can go on a like Google post or a photo and share that into the app. We didn't have that, so we just chipped that. We also added widgets, which someone asked for, and we got app clips, which someone asked for, and all kinds of things. But those are now targets, which is very complicated in an iOS app. You have your development targets. Usually you only have one target or a few that are hard-coded. But now, it depending on if you want app clips or not to work in there, we have to now conditionally add the targets, which makes the build process very complex. Because sometimes we have to conditionally add the build in, and it has to be all programmatically because we don't want you to deal with the code. That's why none of our competitors has done app clips, has done shared target, has done widgets, because it's quite hard in the post-processing to manage. And we found a way to make it work, and that was very stressful, and it was lots of time, and they had a great team, and they did a great job in getting that out there and getting it working, because otherwise every app gets rejected. If you have app clips as a target in there without using it, you essentially have like an empty clip. So we now have this new structure where every functionality of the app, and it does not much like will have its own bundle ID and its own app group that then links to the main app group. So when we add more like those, you don't have to restructure your whole application again. You do have to restructure going from V2 to V3, which is pretty simple and doesn't affect your live app. But moving forward, we now have a system in place because we didn't expect Despia to do those complex things, that we now have a system in place where we can do even more complex things like those AI foundational models and all those kinds of things.
Super cool. All right, so the new bits you've introduced, you alluded a little bit before to the liquid glass part. Are you seeing, I would think about like distribution and like what's next for apps? Any changes as a result of what's coming down the road in WWDC beyond just liquid glass type things?
I do have a feeling that Apple is actually going to abandon app clips because nobody's using that. So we may have spent a little bit too much time on them for something that may be abandoned at some point. But we still want to have them, so we can say we're the only one. It's for advertisement purposes also. But I do think they're doubling down on widgets, and also how widgets that are consisting out of an image will be put into a position where they match with their liquid glass theme. Now, know that Apple is enforcing your UI to be that it needs to look like liquid glass. I think they will never be able to get through with that, but at some point they may want to enforce your UI to look in liquid glass. So we are already starting to make sure that when you have a file uploader, when you have a date picker, we automatically make sure that that element is rendered in something that gets close to liquid glass. But I think
Um,
that would really piss off developers, especially React Native ones. If you have to build the UI in liquid glass.
yeah, yeah, I'm sort of unconvinced about how important it's gonna be. I remember Aqua. It looked very cool at the beginning and sort of gets abandoned. I mean, one is because of computational intensity, like those things are expensive to do, all that semi-transparency, but the other is it's hard to make it look good.
I mean, I looked at the demo. I think it looked pretty awful. I couldn't read the
Um,
text. I was like, "What is it saying again?"
yeah, well, we will see what happens. But but beyond the liquid glass thing, I mean, are there other functionalities or anything we should be paying attention to, particularly like maybe on like on-device AI, anything like that, where we should be
I
looking for on
think
the front?
on-device AI is going to be a game changer because right now you have to, if you build a SaaS, you have to pay for the compute. It has to have an online connection. Having
Yeah.
on-device AI as part of your core SaaS will allow you to make a one-time payment for a SaaS, like $15 for this AI chat app one time, which is a big market, and this will make you very competitive,
Super cool.
right?
All
Also,
right,
you
so
hey, all your chats are stored on your device, so we're not sending it to the FBI. Maybe that's a bad thing to advertise, actually. It depends on who your market is.
yes. The okay, so if that's sort of what's been going on, like your shipping side on Despio, what are you seeing on like the the broader market, like for software that creates software?
I mean, I think right now, I think we're kind of like there are always highs and lows in this market. I think right now we're hitting a very big low because if I take a look at my community, I'm seeing that the signups definitely decreased since the popularity of Lovable and Base 44 and all those vibe coding tools increased. I don't know if that is the same with state change, but you do focus now on AI programming.
Well, we're doing more AI stuff now. The reputation of state change is still heavily from, I think, the low code, no code community, but we're now doing weekly sessions on AI specific topics, and as I'll express it, it's not just building with AI but also building
For AI,
for it, where I
MCP.
think those things get a lot more interesting, like MCP in terms of the things that can be integrating on a machine on that
When I
basis.
talk about it, how in terms of signups, do you experience that there's right now one of those lows or
Well, there is a bit of a seasonal low.
yeah,
I found that like the summers are slower than the fall and the winter tend to be. um but actually I found a little bit
wait
less of a
for
slowdown.
winter. I can't wait for winter. I can do another Black Friday stuff.
Yeah, well, but actually, I was about to say that like this summer has been less of a slowdown than than say last summer was in terms of the arc of the year so
Okay.
far. Like whatever. We'll see how things turn
We're
out.
now going into AI, and I'm still sticking with building it by hand.
Yep.
So I may be in the no code summer low, and you are in the vibe code vibe summer high.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. I am right now witnessing the people who are moving over into AI code are staying within state change because actually it's a place where they can get even more help. We haven't really been doing a good job of yet marketing into those more AI centric, groups yet, because so much of reputation has been in the no code, low code world. But yeah, that's where the puck's
My
going.
impression of
Um,
stage was always and excuse my language, when shit hits the fan, I will join office hours. And
yeah,
Ray can help. And it will be code, whiz, no code, whatever. He just knows everything. He's like a living chat GPT that actually knows what it's talking about.
well, that's actually the big thing I'm building for state change with in the summer is building the state change AI assistant. So that taking the various, so like taking all those office hours we've done, like over 1,000 events, taking over 100 essays written, the mind maps we have, whatever, and turning them into a more helpful, bot or assistant that can either be accessed directly or, excuse me, through MCP. We have actually a state change MCP server that one can just integrate into their cursor or into their Claude or whatever, which can create some really remarkable output.
Very cool.
And like, how can we sort of take that, like you say, take that knowledge. Like the office hours part is great, but I found that like what we really have are like a series of tools for like how to solve complicated problems, and like how can we sort of bring that in so people don't need to be waiting for the next office hours, and I think that makes it much higher value. And even at this point, like most people who join State Change never join office hours, and they instead make use of like our vault, which is already has been searchable now for 6 months, and people can go find what they're looking for. But the next step up is trying to be more proactively inside the workflow, and the fact that we're doing more AI driven work gives an opportunity to be integrating into workflow in a way that we couldn't in just the visual development landscape.
Yeah. I think right now it is very interesting with the people for NoCode ProCode. It's like they try out Lovable, they try out WeWeb, and they feel like they hit a plateau that they can't overcome. Then for some random reasons, they find Nordcraft.
Yeah.
You really have to make an effort to find. It's like not something you find easily online. And then they find, most of the times actually find me, and then they find Nordcraft. So most of the times, which is actually surprising, when people start their customer relationship with Nordcraft, I'm actually the one creating that through my videos. So most of the times they find Nordcraft through me, then of course attached to that, because I'm very good at putting almost like solicitational advertisement in my videos. Then they sign up for my community, and then we get them. But now the customer lifecycle went like from a week to a few months, because they have to fail first to get in there.
Yep.
And that takes a little bit of time.
Yes, I actually said in another forum that I look for people to come and State Change after they've been blooded, like after they've had experience with the market and with building, because then they get greater clarity as to what it is they really need.
Yeah.
And what I don't like is people coming in, and really, I just don't like people coming in, spending, a subscription for a month and feeling like they're not getting anything out of it because this is like the wrong set of content for them. There's great introductory free content that people should just avail themselves of. And then when you get past that point and you're at you shift one, you had a
YouTube channel. So like on this YouTube channel and on your YouTube channel, if anybody wants Xano, WeWeb, raise your guy.
It's true. Made content about those things. And the work you've done around Wiz, around Nordcraft, or as it was previously called, Toddle.
I'm still surprised and shocked. My best videos, top 10 best videos are Wiz.
Yeah.
None, like the Nordcraft videos are actually doing pretty terrible. Like I'm just thinking back, if I would have started my community while I was doing Wiz, I would be sitting in a fully golden plated chair right now. And now with Nordcraft, I'm sitting in a plastic chair.
Yeah, and you're going to find other tools as well, and like but the you are still like well regarded as an expert in both those tools, and increasingly, I think, in the WeWeb world as well.
Yeah. I mean, I do like picking up fights with all of them, so I do have now the kind of like the image of being. I'm not carrying anybody's opinion. I have my own, which is good and bad. It's good for the people that watch your videos and are looking for an non-objective opinion about something. They just want to shop around the market and get the best advice. Maybe not the best when it comes to having a relationship with the people that built the tool, but you can't have everything in life.
No, we cannot. This is a true statement. Okay. So I guess So what challenges are you hearing in your community, in the course of the last month?
One challenge is actually the speed and the time that it takes to build stuff using Nordcraft. Not so
Interesting.
much Nano. It's
Yeah.
more like, oh my God, I've been spending 3 weeks building this freaking dashboard and the charts are not working yet. And I'm worried about adding a new item to the list when the user clicks this button. And now I'm in office hours to get help with that, where I can just do this in Lovable like this. That's the frustration I'm seeing. And I have to tell them, you can do it in Lovable like this, and you can connect it with your REST APIs in Xano. But the ability with Lovable, it's like you don't have access to your event listeners. You have to go into a whole React file to find them. So the precision, it's like Lovable is like a doctor doing a surgery while being blindfolded and having the assistant tell the doctor how it's looking and having the doctor tell the assistant where to cut something. It's very unprecise. Where Nordcraft is like doing the surgery yourself with magnifying glasses.
Yeah. And being able to go back and forth, I think is
That's
really valuable.
about NoCode. And I really hope that all of those tools are successful. I hope that Nordcraft is going to be very successful. I hope that WeWeb is going to be very successful. And we hope that Xano is not going too successful, because we don't want them to be too successful to just look down to us and say, you can go.
Yeah, and the other other tools come out too. I've actually invested in another AI assisted build tool that I think is pretty
Please let
pretty
us
neat.
know so we can write them down and pay them a monthly subscription to make you rich.
But and I have to admit, I now have a budget for going and just subscribing to weird services, so I can learn more about them, and then just require the discipline.
This is probably the weirdest service you'll ever try. I'll give you unlimited licenses for free.
All to the good. Yeah, and that's one challenge you're hearing on the on the Nordcraft side of the house. I thought it was a really interesting point, and sort of the question of speed, right? Like you want speed and you want control, and obviously there's a trade-off as you go between those two things. But technology is all about bending the curve of these trade-offs, right? So what are you seeing? Are you seeing anything in the market right now that's like doing a good job of bending that curve?
I think WeWeb would be the best, but if I'm looking lately at their emails, there's an execution thing that they have to resolve. Nordcraft had plenty of issues. If you were to ask me to make a list of things that have been stopping me building Despia and Nordcraft that like cost me days and lots of money, I could probably give you like three pages full of stuff. So I don't think that you should blame WeWeb for what's happening with them right now, because Nordcraft has had it plenty of times. WeWeb is just having the same thing now while being deeper into the market, because they are reshaping what their product is about. But you get the same instability with other companies. If you want a stable product, you got to go to Bubble, and nobody wants that.
Okay.
But also,
yeah.
keep in mind, Nordcraft, I think, has like 200 apps built in it that are live. WeWeb has 1,500 based on the resources I found online. I could be wrong, I could be right. Wiz has 1,500, which is surprising to me. And Bubble,
surprising high or surprising low? Higher.
Right? And to my research, Bubble has like hundreds of thousands. And I'm looking at this, I was like, maybe we should convince Bubble to revamp their UI, make it nice, let us write custom code, implement a nice node-based formula editor, and we can work with this.
Hundreds of thousands of paying apps now that are running in Bubble?
Like in general. I mean, like when it comes to no-code companies, Bubble is the biggest one.
Well, it's bigger than like Mendix and Out?
No. I mean, like there is a difference between enterprise no-code, like OutSystems, Mendix, and like how should we call that, consumer no code?
Yeah, well, I think down market no code.
Yeah,
That's right. So like, we have, the down market iPaaS of Zapier or Make, or Pipedream, I suppose. We have down market,
and I
app
think of
builders
no
like.
code, I think the options that are is Webflow Member Stack, Webflow Wist, Nordcraft, WeWeb, Bubble, Software. That's it. That is my interpretation of no code.
Not Flutterflow. Interesting on that list.
Yeah, I don't like Flutterfly. I mean, I'm the competitor. Come on, I can't mention that.
Yeah, I mean, I think both Despy and Flutterflow are really interesting because the making just sort of a basic web app, I don't think is where the future is.
No.
It's actually one of the reasons why I'm particularly, I can be a little bit more bullish about like Xano or BuildShip for that matter. I'm sort of making it more about the sector than the particular company, because these companies that historically have had the, if you will, disadvantage of being perceived as being half of a solution. Right. Well, you need a front end in order to take advantage of the back end. So you're taking the a la carte approach as opposed to the all-in-one that is the bubble or whatever.
Pushing AI now because I'm looking at all the videos. Xano is like how to integrate Xano with Lovable, how to integrate Xano with Cursor, how to vibe
Yep.
code with Xano. They
Right.
are Xano has been always like the thing you set up after the UI is done, and the UI companies have been starting to make all the money. Now Xano is making all the money, and the UI companies are fighting for the lowest market share.
I think they are fighting, and Xano wants to be in the mix because otherwise Supabase is a pretty obvious choice when you're going to the Lovables whatever of the world, because Supabase is also programmable in a way that like the natural language to create code is sort of a natural flow for it. But where I think Xano has a really cool opportunity is the whole building for AI thing, right? And that's where the MCP stuff really comes in.
Their function stack, and it's patented. So
Yes, their function stack is, I think, the best thing about them. And then the question is, how do you bring that function stack to bear? And when they're using it as a back-end API, it's half of a solution. But when you use it as an MCP server, it's like the whole service.
yeah.
And I'm looking forward to like a generation of companies, we'll call them SaaSes, whatever, that have a primary delivery mechanism over MCP.
Like Postbridge, which Daniel did. And I think we should have him on this podcast.
Yeah. Awesome human being who's working on some really interesting stuff in this arena. Yes.
No, it wasn't.
Session Bridge.
Postbridge was another thing. It's like Session Bridge or something.
Session Bridge. That's right.
Session Bridge. There you go. And he did vibe code it, right? Like the interface, he did it like in Cursor or something.
Yes. You and I had in one of our first sessions, we were talking about vibe coding, and we were ragging on the idea a little bit. I turned it actually into a song called the Vibe Code Blues, which I enjoy and listen to regularly.
You love Suno. You do like your.
It's all Suno. That's right. And but one of the things that sort of the song comes back to is the idea that you need to think. And that is where I think Daniel really shows the way. Like, yes, he's using AI-assisted tools. He's doing what we might call vibe coding, but the implication of vibe coding is you're allowing the AI to drive
the vibe. Like, if you do vibe coding and you just take the vibe away, you don't need to like be all vibey about, oh, let's do this and put a little bit of this. It's like, I think like the term vibe coding, I don't know if you know from social media, there is this one guy who is always like mocking tech CEOs. So he's like, he used to be like, he used to do this like French kid thing where he was like rich European kid or something. And now he did like Silicon Valley tech startup. He does like those skits and he does like very funny. You should take a look at it. I forgot his name, but he's doing like videos where they are skits and he's like the tech CEO and they talk about random crazy stuff. And actually, it's so funny to watch, but this is kind of like what most vibe coders are. He knows nothing about technology. That's what he plays in those skits. And he just tells people what to do and randomly fires people and says, we need to raise more money, or we spend all the money building the Uber for dogs. It's really funny. And then actually what happened is because he got like millions of followers from doing this, Lovable actually paid him money because they know we want people like this to actually use Lovable. They paid him probably a significant amount of money to make an advertisement for Lovable. And the advertisement was like, why didn't someone tell me that we can just fire all our engineers and have it built for a few dollars in Lovable? unbelievable, you all are fired or something like this. And they just made it like very funny. It's like comedy TikTok style, targeting Gen Z millennials, right? And that's kind of like the vibe code part. So I was like, yeah, they will not build something successful in vibe coding with this attitude. But if you change the attitude, you actually want to learn from it, then you can build something successful. But then you also want to ask yourself the question, why am I giving away precision for convenience?
Okay. Well, why? Well, that's a pretty good question. When do you give away precision for convenience? And like, do you have to?
Mhm.
And this is where, yeah, as code editors get better, I'm using a
Years, we don't even have to. I think in 2 years, Lovable will have a visual workflow builder. Lovable will have a way for us to like in Wisp attach events to components. And I think most of those no-code tools, Nordcraft, WeWeb, may have to file for bankruptcy if Lovable gets big enough and has those things and competes against them. Or they have to step up on AI, which they are not doing that well right now. Right? And I think there
Sure.
will be a market for people who see themselves like experts, craftsmen, not craft, that will still use those tools. Because if code can be written by AI, why should
Mhm.
you write code yourself? So I think we will have a future where there are two worlds. There is code, and the primary way that code is written is by AI. And then we will have no code, and those are the people that do not use AI to build stuff. They will not write the code by themselves because it doesn't make sense. You can have code written by AI. They will do it. So, like right now, you have programmers who write code themselves and who will use AI to do it. In the future, we will have two new groups. We will have the ones that are writing code with AI, and we will have the ones who are using no code.
Why do you think they'll be separated? Why wouldn't you just be using both in concert?
Of course, there will be something in the middle too. But the idea is that with AI, you're just having the AI do the work, and you're giving the instructions, you're giving the idea. Where with
Yeah.
no code, it's like doing a surgery. You want to do it step by step. You want it a precise way, a specific way, and you may not be that articulated enough to tell an AI what you actually want it to do. Right?
That's a reasonable point, but I think that this is why they mix, because like there's a using AI to get a very fast start, being able to dial in more with the visual, and then as you see more of the visual, being able to bring AI back to the party. I think the most successful tools are going to be the ones that are able to link both those things.
Yeah.
And I've seen a
What
little bit
I
of flavor
think
for that,
is,
like Cursor's integration with StageWise.
yeah, for example, we have one in office hours. For religious reasons, he cannot use AI. So now how
Okay.
he's going to build if he cannot use AI in Lovable? So he has to use something like Nordcraft. And I'm just thinking about that. I'm saying, okay, like if he in 2 years wants to compete with the job market and he wants to compete with the people who are using AI to build stuff, he cannot compete with the people using AI to build stuff by writing code manually by hand himself. He will have to use accelerated development tools, and this will lead him to no code, low code. So if you want to compete with this vibe coding industry, it's not by writing code, it's by using those visual development tools like Xano, like Nordcraft, like now maybe not WeWeb for him, but like
Yeah.
Xano.
Well, I know, for example, Xano has been bragging for 9 months, and who knows when they're actually going to come out with it. They're actually they kind of already have. There's something called XanoScript, which is like their take on like having a language for it. And there are at least 1, 2, 3 people who have made MCP servers because not only does Xano create XanoScript, and they're still editing it, whatever, and polishing and for some reason they haven't released into product. But anybody who actually has Xano instance has actually something called a metadata API. And in that metadata API, they dark dropped a beta path. And in that beta path, you can edit Xano using using JavaScript. And that means, and you
Okay.
combine that with an MCP server, and you get like the ability to AI code your way through it.
And I think where it goes for Xano, they will be the Supabase alternative for Lovable, and I think there may be a Xano integration into Lovable, so that you can have Lovable build your stack like it does with Supabase and the REST API right now. Then you can go into Xano and edit it. And I think they're aiming for that. That's why they're decreasing their pricing.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with the decreased pricing. But the other thing I look at with the MCP bit is that there's been I need to go build an integration for you in order to make that work. But the P in MCP is protocol. It's open. It's like HTTP. I don't need to go build integrations with every website that I'm going to link to, right? I can just say, hey, point in that direction. And the MCP stuff allows us to do that as well. The really cool thing about that is that instead of them saying, I'm going to do a deal with Lovable, I'm going to do a deal with Bolt, I'm going to deal with, I don't know, V0 or something, they can just say, well, we have an MCP server and allow their customers to make use of that and to bring these things together.
But I think from a marketing perspective, Xano will definitely try to reach out to Lovable.
Oh, yeah, sure. They're all going to try to, the small fish always try to attach themselves to the big fish. And Lovable, while it is a not large company employee-wise, I think it's many fewer employees than Xano, has scads more money.
They got lots of money.
Sorry, that ding, because I said scads, is that like a bad word in the context of...
No, this was just someone who is subscribed to Despia right now.
Oh, very nice. I'd like to hear that ding.
I built myself a mobile application in Despia that whenever someone signs up for Despia, I will get like a cha-ching, like a ping.
That's pretty good cha-ching. A Stripe does those too.
Products, right? Use your own products, but don't get too hooked on them.
Yeah, and although there are great stories about people who started by using their own product, and then those have turned out to be fantastic successes. So, keep on dog fooding, man. It's the way.
I'm eating my own dog food all the time. Like right now, I'm building a little project, and it's for a kiosk. So there will be like a kiosk application, and that is wholly built as an Android application built in Despia for like a virtual kiosk. And then I was like, hey, we need to add this feature so it actually works in kiosks.
Yeah, I hear that. So what is the thing you're looking forward to in the month of July? As we head into a new month here,
version 3 of Despia, because we've been late. I've been telling people version 3 is coming out very soon, very soon. I said it will come out June, early June, and then I just change it to late June, and then just change it to coming soon.
Yep, getting that monkey off your back. I totally hear that. For me, there's some. I'm looking forward to the turn in June. I'm trying to finish June with the turn in like this offering the state change assistant. Like that's the big thing I'm trying to get done between now and mid next week, I suppose. And then really in July, turn the marketing as well, the positioning of state change. I want to be much more around where people seem to need the most help. There are definitely people who are working with low-code, no-code tools who continue to need help, but there's so many people who are just like driving into a ditch, and the opportunity to be able to help them out through these different arenas is really cool for me. That's what gets me up in the morning. I love doing that stuff.
Yeah. When are we having the marketing office hours? I need Mitch to roast my landing page. Are you want to roast my landing page right now?
I think it's a wonderful idea. We should totally get Mitch back in state change to be doing that kind of thing. But how about we bring up your I want you to bring up your landing page, and I want anybody who's watching right now, all maybe both of you who are watching right now, to drop into the comments your thoughts about the Despia landing page.
Are you seeing my landing page?
Oh, the NoCode ProCode landing page.
I went to the ProCode one because like Despia signups are doing fantastic. But it's like I think it's almost like all the signups are not going to Despia are being took away by the NoCode ProCode. With NoCode ProCode, what I did, I removed actually the video process, so that's also cool.
The video process?
Like I had people submit a video to join. Now you can just click on there and put your credit card in it to join immediately.
Oh, they just go straight in. Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Because I was like, if less people send videos, and then like there are an amount of people that send videos, and then there is an amount of people that when they send the videos, that actually pay after they send the videos. So I was like, if the numbers are going down, let's remove the videos so we actually have more people, or like the same amount of people still that pay. That was the logic behind that. But I would love your opinion on that. It's very hyper niched. That may be actually the problem. Like ship your Nordcraft projects 10x faster, build your dream app with Nordcraft and Xano, join daily office hours, and get expert coaching to go from idea to launch. No matter your skill level, join today, view testimonials. You have also the value proposition, get access, daily office hours, templates, and AI, courses and videos. We have a testimonial. We have more testimonials here. And then we have the plan, $129 a month or $999, but that's kind of like for a monthly coaching program. So most people take the $129. It's kind of,
it's an anchoring technique. I get that.
yeah. So I'd love to get your opinion on that.
I'm curious. How many times do you get for the $999 offer?
For the $999?
Yeah.
It's usually like one a quarter.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting offer too. Like I think it sort of allows one to think about like, what am I trying to do? And so instead of having it be a month, it's like, it's a program, right? It's like, hey, let's do that for a month.
$999 a month, and you can cancel anytime. So it's like if you want office hours, but you also want to do weekly one-on-one coaching, and you want code review, and you want a private Slack channel with it, it's $999.
Yeah. Right? No, I hear that. But when we scroll up for a second, I think your big question is really, is it too niched? And you said something to me, before we went on air about your Wiz being a big source of, and I kind of wonder, like you're associating yourself with Nordcraft, right? And there was a time we were talking about like Wiz plus Xano, right? And now it's Nordcraft.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if there's like a little bit of an animation or something to be done, to be talking about the other platforms that you do support, the high credibility in, because otherwise I think you got a bunch of WeWeb people who like you, who are not coming in. Now maybe you don't want them to come in. Maybe you want to be focused on just like the one product. That's a decision, right? So there's a question of like, are you niche down relative to your opportunity to both have impact, right, and enjoy the work?
Yeah.
And my belief is that there is need.
I would not like to solve all the problems in Wist anymore. I've been doing that for too long. But I don't even think, is there that big of a Wist market still?
Sorry, what?
Is there still that big of a Wist market?
Well, I think one of the comments you made to me is like there are like 1,500 Wiz sites, and
that's pretty high. Help anymore. They just occasionally break, which may be something to get into. Yes.
Well, the other trick is like you go to all, if your audience is just the 0 to 1 people, they flake, right? People who have shipped, much less likely to flake. So those technologies have been around for a little bit longer. If you are then like the world-class expert and they can be dropping into your office hours just when they need your help, that's not a terrible deal. They use you less, they value you more, right? So like you can actually make a bigger impact, a bigger dollar impact on their business for lower cost to yourself, right? And with sitting in that zone.
It seems like I got to start Wist again. I mean, it's going to be another 1,500 customers for Despia as well. So then maybe actually market it better than the 50 people that actually shipped something in Nordcraft. And most of them come from my community. So.
Well, and I've been seeing a lot of that in Say Change too. And Say Change represents a substantial fraction of the people who are serious builders with Xano. But the other thing about like having you go across 2 platforms is it causes you to start to think more about like what's in common between those, what in terms of your service, which makes it more of a you service, right, rather than a service that's about as an adjunct to whatever that platform is.
Convince me, I'm going to do Wist videos again.
And then I would do WeWeb videos. I
couldn't really stand it. It like with WeWeb, I feel like I'm losing control over the code.
Well, and I think that's a reasonable thing to do. You can decide who are your friends and who you're boosting and who are your enemies, and who you're not boosting.
I mean, I do think Nordcraft is probably the best out there because you got server-side rendering, you got all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And then pretty much it drops off pretty much at that point. But then if like someone said you can't use Nordcraft, it's not allowed or something, then I would probably use Wist, even though I wouldn't be happy using it, but I would probably use it because it's just the next best thing after it. And then if they would be gone, I would probably go to WeWeb. And then
there's a topic we should do. We should be looking at like what are, if you were to ask like who are the big, front end builders on the AI side, you'd immediately say it's Lovable, it's Bolt, it's V0. If you ask who are the big builders on, in the no code, low code, small medium business side, it would be there's Bubble, there's WeWeb, there's Wiz, there's Nordcraft, there's I'm not really sure what else. Who's significant on like the back end, small medium business side, and that's going to be Xano, Supabase, BuildShip. And I suppose you're thinking no code, low code. You're probably just thinking more Xano and BuildShip. Used to be FastGen, but of course they've exited the market. Now, where I think there's something interesting here, and this will be my challenge to you, sir. And I think we should both bring next week a weird, low code or AI assisted tool. One that doesn't have or doesn't seem to have as much, traction in the market. We can talk about the majors and like the folks who are getting lots of attention.
Nordcraft is pretty weird.
It is pretty weird. And your point about their marketing, they could use a bit more attention, but they're getting that already, right? So like what's out there that's a little different? And I think that could be a fun segment for us to do and be really useful to people, like how to think more expansively about the tools they might bring to the table.
Yeah. So I will write this down right now. Find your no-code tool. I mean, there are plenty of them. So
there certainly are a lot of them out there. And then like, hey, what's new? What and I think if we mix the things that are more eternal, like we're talking about like 25-year-old business models, at the beginning of the segment, with things that are new and trendy, I think we'll be able to have a big impact for our viewers here.
Yeah. And I do think, especially now, there's maybe something that people want to take a look at, because we started talking about the future of SaaS and all that. iPad OS is around the corner. The iPad is turning more and more into a Mac, but it still doesn't have access to all the apps that a Mac has to. There's a big business opportunity right now in building iPad applications and turning your web application into an iPad application, and extending the functionality with certain native functionalities that will enhance the iPad application. And if you want to do that, Despia fully supports you building iPad applications. Always got to end with advertisement, right?
Always show the product. Always show the product.
But we also got to show the product. If you like what you've seen so far from Ray, he's a genius, and geniuses are not cheap. But if you want to get a great bargain and get Ray every week, you can sign up for Stage. It's only $149 a month, and you will be saving probably thousands of dollars compared to if you were to hire him by the hour. I think your hourly rate already increased again, so I'm afraid to look at it.
And most people like it is, I think, a more sensible alternative for the vast majority of people who are building, and it's a great time. And if you're a serious builder, I would totally recommend it, because it is and then I totally just get a kick out of getting to work with and meet and help these people.
Amazing. So join Stage.
I think that's our move here,
Join Stage right now. It starts as low as $39. It's perfect for every budget.
Very cool, man.
It was
all right. Let's do this. Let us not let another month go by, sir. Let's do this next week.
I'm done. We got it all done with Apple now.
Excellent.
Next week, Friday.
Looking forward to it, man.
Fridays. Does that work for you? Every Friday?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Same bat time, same bat channel. And hopefully I'll actually get the channels up too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that.